Hi, everybody, and welcome back. It's a big day here in American government because today's lecture is possibly one of the most exciting topics in all of American government, the bureaucracy. So, we're going to talk today about how government actually runs, the evolution of this bureaucratic system, the president's cabinet, and the different collective action problems inherent in running such a large organization like the federal government. I know you're all super excited to proceed, so let's go ahead and get started. One of the things we talk about in my class about the presidency is the idea that every president comes in looking to reform the bureaucracy. The main idea is that Americans are frustrated with the red tape, frustrated with wasting money, and frustrated with government in general. So the idea of telling people that you're going to take the fat cat government employees to task is always popular. However, this is more easily said than done. It's ultimately impossible to reform the bureaucracy without significant change in the power relationships among interests and institutions. It's not a matter of laying off some people or eliminating a department. There are too many interests at stake and too many laws in place that necessitate the bureaucracy. A favorite of mine is how much bureaucracy is devoted to preventing government waste, and how much money is wasted in that process. For example, we spend a ridiculous amount of money making sure we don't waste things in higher education, specifically looking at the outcomes assessment empire that we've built. The state legislature makes sure that universities aren't wasting money by making UMW accountable to SCHEV, or the State Council for Higher Education in Virginia. This means we have to do a yearly report about whether you all are learning what you're supposed to be learning. This means we hire somebody at the vice provost level to coordinate the process, and multiple employees under that person to help. Then we bring in experts to consult on the reports and spend however many hours for professors writing these reports as we spend. The whole process of making sure your tuition dollars are being spent properly probably costs the university $500,000 every year, which ironically is far more money than the process saves in terms of efficiency and waste. Reforming the bureaucracy, though, means making hard choices and making politically unpopular choices. Holding government employees accountable is always popular. Removing oversight is never popular. That's why we see things like outcomes assessment and SCHEV. One of the big times we see changes in the bureaucracy is when the larger social and political environment changes. A great example of this is the creation of the Department of Homeland Security after 9/11. We had a major terrorist attack on American soil, and the American people demanded that something needed to be done. So, President George W. Bush creates a new bureau aimed at coordinating information between the FBI and CIA, and people were happy about this because it showed that he was doing something in response to the attacks on our soil. On the other hand, we still hear we need to cut government spending, shrink the size of government. So, in demands for increasing oversight, increasing protection, at the same time shrinking the size of government, shrinking spending, we're stuck with conflicting goals and conflicting demands from an uninformed electorate. Questions of how we'd actually administer our government received very little attention at the Constitutional Convention. They focused on the bigger questions and creating an outline of our government, what it should do, the theory behind it, but left most of the nuts and bolts issues for later. They also knew that the tension between the impracticality of delegating too little and the fear of delegating too much to an executive would be a major issue to resolve, and one that would be difficult to resolve, maybe sinking the new Constitution. So, they did what any great leaders do, and they left it for later people to figure out. In the beginning, Congress created 3 departments, which you should know for the quiz and for life. Those departments were Treasury, Foreign Affairs, renamed State later, and the Department of War, later renamed the Department of Defense. So Treasury, Foreign Affairs, and War. They also authorized the hiring of an Attorney General to give the President and department heads legal advice. These 3 departments were divided into bureaus, and the bureaucracy was born. Congress gave the President shared power to appoint, but gave him the sole power to remove the heads of each of these bureaus as he saw fit.